Hello people of YouTube, I hope y'all are having a great day. This is Lord Seal, and today we're gonna be taking a look at the world's most famous Great Dane. More specifically, its iceberg, which is quite a big one. Oh god have mercy. This brilliant iceberg was put together by a user going by Ringo Suta and was posted on Reddit a couple of months ago. I'll leave a link in the description below to go and show some appreciation to this absolute W of a person. This iceberg is divided into 7 levels, the first being the most common facts about Mr. Scoobert and the last being facts that even Warner Bros. Doesn't know about. Most of you probably have seen Iceberg before, you know what it's all about, though I still felt the responsibility of explaining it to the people who probably haven't watched a Wendigo video before. Ringo was even nice enough to leave us with the date on which the iceberg was made and how many entries. That's a big and scary number, so we should get going with this iceberg. Just one more thing before the video starts. Ringo put his iceberg on Iceberg Charts, a site on which you can add links and stuffs, kind of like a little summary to entries to make it easier for people to understand what you're referring to with a specific entry. And that helped a lot, especially the lower tiers. So again, I just want to say a big thank you to the creator and just please go and show them some love in the Reddit comments. They fully deserve it. So without further ado, let's get on with this probably hour-long video. Scooby-Doo has had a lot of crossover episodes and movies. The whole premise of the new Scooby-Doo movies and Scooby-Doo and Guess Who is that every episode is a crossover. Some better than others, of course, but what classifies as weird in my opinion are the following installments. Every DC character, they just fell off. And why are there so many? I swear there's a new DC X Scooby-Doo crossover every year. Scooby and Batman probably both have amnesia because they've seen each other more than I've seen my parents last summer, and they still treat every interaction as if they're complete strangers to one another. Here comes Scooby Natural, a must-see episode in my opinion. It's episode 16 of season 13 of the American show called Supernatural. The only episode that I've seen of this show is the one I'm talking about, so I don't know if the show is actually good. But given the fact it was on its 13th season when the Scooby episode ran, and that the show ended in 2020, 50 years after release with 15 seasons in its bag, that probably indicates that the show overall is really good, but we're only here to talk about this episode, which as I said was amazing. It combined Scooby-Doo with actual stakes and violence. Shaggy got his arm in a sling even. That's the biggest injury our Homelander has ever seen. Moving on to the second place, we have the Scooby-Doo X Kiss crossover that was in form of a movie released in 2015. I'ma be real, this movie was probably made just to get a bag from a crossover combining two things that were popular in the 70s, released in the mid-2010s. But the movie is actually pretty decent, except for the last 15 minutes, which felt like someone describing an LSD trip. And now, the number one spot for weird Scooby crossovers, in my opinion, had to put that out there, is the Scooby-Doo X Teen Titans Go crossover. I found out about this one in a fun way. I was playing some games like a year and a half ago, and I just glanced over at my TV that was turned on and on Cartoon Network. I can't remember the reason why, but as I glanced, I see Fred, and I was like, oh sweet, Scooby-Doo is on. But then I just clocked that the art style is kind of different, and then the camera panned over from Fred to that TV villain and the Teen Titans, and for a couple of seconds I thought I had reached the gates of hell and had to go through an egotistical journey through the 9 circles of hell. But thankfully that was not the case. There was just a dumb crossover. The infamous revival of the Scooby franchise brought the gang back with new outfits, but the irony in the title is that there's not much new, since this is mostly a carbon copy of the source material, but it makes up for it with its theme song, which is one of the catchiest to ever be made in television history. Even if you've never watched more than 5 Scooby-Doo episodes in your life, you still probably know about this assumption that the fans made about Shaggy's character, given his apparel and diction. The creators of the show came out multiple times to say that Shaggy is not a stoner and that they hated Matt Miller's marijuana joke from the first live-action movie, you know, when they were on the plane. But as fans, we know deep down that Shaggy is a stoner. He's our stoner. Back in the day, James Gunn was not writing laughter-inducing superhero and villain movies. This was his downfall, because in the good old days, he wrote Grammy-worthy live-action adaptations of everyone's favorite Great Dane. Only the first two though. The other two were produced by Brian Levant, who also produced Jingle All the Way, you know, that Arnold Schwarzenegger Christmas movie from that Solar Opposites episode. The sequel to the most infamous cartoon in history brought the gang back for twice the episode runtime, and the guest appearance every episode. This is one of the best Scooby shows. The episodes are amazing, especially the ones with the basketball team, and I just remember watching them as a kid with my brother when Cartoon Network cinema was a thing, or back in quarantine with my mates over Discord. I swear, this series brings people together more than fucking Christmas. Suck it, Mr. Claus. Chase scenes are a staple of the Scooby-Doo genre. Though it happens like every episode nowadays, back in the day it happened only 7 times, and they all were in the second season of the series. The songs were Daydreaming, 7 Days a Week, Pretty Mary Sunlight, Recipe for My Love, Love the World, I Can Make You Happy, and my favorite, Tell Me Tell Me. This is the best written Scooby series. It's darker than your usual Scooby series, the characters actually have distinct personalities, there are stakes, it has an overarching mystery, it's a perfect Scooby cartoon, and if you haven't watched it, then you definitely should. Even if you don't like Scooby in general, I really think you'll enjoy this. Scooby-Doo is Scooby's nephew, and the deal about this little puppy is that he's really hated by the community, and I think that a lot of it is undeserved. So today I'm his attorney, bitch. So, Scrappy is by far the most hated character in Scooby-Doo, and one of the most hated characters in cartoon history. And the greater part of the hate is so unjustified. One of the key reasons for the hate, apparently, is that it was the one that brought the dark age of Scooby-Doo, which was from the 80s to the start of the 2000s, where that hate was amplified with the first live-action movie, in which he was the villain. When he appeared, he did not bring the series down. He was a breath of fresh air, in my opinion. Scooby-Doo had been the same for over a decade, and he spiced things up when it came to solving mysteries. Scooby was in the mud, or better say the water, like Rose after the Titanic had hit an iceberg, and Scrappy was like the wooden plank that saved her, but because he wasn't a fucking yacht, people treat him like shit. Most of the haters unknowingly hating on the plank that held the series from sinking like the Titanic and made the Scooby-Doo series and movies that you're watching today possible. But what do? They act like he was the worst. They act like they don't know what he is, and that really pisses me off. Now, let's get back to how Scrappy was in the shows. After the first season of the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show, which was pretty decent, the people in charge of Scooby content decided to make 33 episodes that contained 99 shorts, which led to some of the most bizarre and LSD-induced Scooby adventures I've ever seen. They threw out the window the whole bad guy behind the mask stuff and made the villains supernatural, and the stories did not make any sense. I've talked more about this series in my Ranking Every Scooby-Doo series video, so if you want to hear more about this dark period in Scooby's history and these baffling adventures, I'd suggest you check it out. When it comes to the Hex Girls, they are... I'm gonna cast a spell on you. Better than some actual real bands. They have also become queer icons over the years, which is really cool, and the fact that they didn't get a spin-off or an album feels like a robbery, man. This is the original Scooby series, the pinnacle of Saturday morning cartoons and one of the perfect cartoons to ever be made. They got everything right from the beginning, it's extremely impressive. This entry is referring to that meme which was interpreting one of the basic messages of Scooby-Doo, that monsters are just humans with a different face. Shakespeare would never. You know, the top text, bottom text shenanigans over a screenshot from the 3rd ever Scooby-Doo episode, Castle in the Castle, real shit over there. This Scooby adaptation from 2015 was not received well by the community, which is a bit unfair in my opinion. The reasons for the hate that it received when it was released were the art style, which I admit is pretty shit, and the fact that it was the first Scooby series to come out after the masterpiece known as Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. I believe that if the series had been released before Mr. Inc., it would have been way more appreciated. So if you can get past the art style, I suggest you give it a watch. It's really funny and Daphne has an amazing personality. I genuinely think this might be my favorite Daphne interpretation in the entire franchise. Yes. One of the greatest memes to ever exist. The meme which gave us Shaggy's amazing power multiverses. The meme edit came out in 2017, I think, and it became really popular in 2019, and then it became canon in 2021 in the opening to Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms. The original bar fight scene is from Scooby-Doo and the Legend of the Phantasaur, a Scooby movie from 2011 with a pretty man name, but as the old saying goes, don't judge a Scooby movie by its cover or something like that. The movie is actually really fun. If you want to watch a Scooby movie and don't know what to pick, given the fact that the new one comes out like every year, this one would be one that I'd suggest you watch. Trust me, you'd have a lot of fun with it, especially now because of the meme. Old Man Jenkins is the term for the stereotypical Scooby villain. You know, the old guy in a mask. Whilst there actually was an old man named Mr. Jenkins in the 8th episode of the original series, the man proved to be innocent. Fun fact, the Old Man Jenkins character is a recurring character in another beloved cartoon, SpongeBob. This is referring to the fact that Fred and Daphne always split up together, and people think it's because they go off to do the fucking. And you can't blame anyone for thinking this, like, look at this scene from the Scooby-Doo and Johnny Bravo crossover.
Scooby, you and Fred check upstairs. Velma and I'll look in the basement.
Daphne?
I I mean, Scooby, you and Velma check upstairs, and Fred and I'll look in the basement.
Right.
This entry is referring to the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10, which is a series of 10 made-for-TV animated films produced by the one and only Hanna-Barbera Productions. The 10 movies focused around the many Hanna-Barbera IPs like the Flintstones, Huckleberry Hound, Top Cat, Yogi Bear, The Jetsons, and man's best friend, Scooby-Doo. 3 out of the 10 movies were focused around Scooby-Doo, and these 3 were the first ever Scooby movies to be released, after Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood, which are Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers, which is also my brother's favorite Scooby movie, and one of my favorites because of its chaotic nature and the fact that the ghost hunters are actual ghosts. That's some social commentary shit right there, okay? Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, which is pretty okay, and Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, which shows Shaggy's first ever girlfriend, which only appears in this movie, and nobody remembers her name. I'm not even sure if she's real anymore. Maybe it's a Mandela effect. It's the fucking monocle all over again, I swear. As with every massive media corporation, when it hits gold, it keeps milking it till it's dry like a raisin. But Warner Bros. Are actually taking the piss here. At first, I thought there were like 7 or 8 Scooby clones, but then I stumbled upon this amazing Twitter thread from 3 years ago by a user called Jonathan H. Gray. I'll leave his Twitter link in the description, so go give him a follow. He fully deserved it. So, about the thread that Mr. Jonathan H. Gray put together. He found out that there are 22 Scooby clones, which is a bit mad if you think about it, and those are Josie and the Pussycats, Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, the Funky Phantom, the Amazing Chen and the Chan Chan, Speed Buggy, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, Goober and the Ghost Chasers, Inch High Private Eye, Dynamite Dog Wonder, Clue Club, Jabber Jaw, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, Woofer and Whimper, Dog Detectives, The Buford Files, The Galloping Ghost, Casper and the Angels, The New Shmoo, The Flintstones Comedy Show Second, which contains multiple segments, and a couple of those are Scooby clones we're talking about. Those being Dino and Bam Bam, and Captain Caveman CC and the Teen Angels X Hong Kong Fooey. Fuck me, not even Marvel could pull off a crossover like this. Fang Face / Fang Face and Fang Puss, Rickety Rocket, and last but probably not least, Mr. T. This comedic trope was not invented by Scooby-Doo, as I thought before making the video. It was actually invented before television in the old days of French farce. So yeah, theater. The trope appeared on TV around the 1930s, and an instance of this gag happening was in the 1966 movie A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. But let's be honest, Scooby-Doo was the one to popularize the gag and pop culturize it. Yep, that's a word. Making the gag getting repeated in popular shows like The Simpsons, Phineas and Ferb, Family Guy, and about in another 1,000 shows. Following the trend of babyficating older cartoon characters, a trend that started with the Muppet Babies in 1984, Hanna-Barbera reduced Mystery Inc. to kids. In the process, they also reunited the gang because Fred and Velma had been separated from it for the better part of the 1980s, and thus a pup named Scooby-Doo was born. This was the first show to give the characters distinct personalities so the kids in the audience could differentiate Fred, Daphne, and Velma. Fred is the leader and the conspiracy theorist, Velma was the brains, and Daphne was rich and over-obsessive with the cleanness of her clothes. Extremely original. Oh yeah, and Shaggy and Scooby, they remain the same. Originally a fan theory, but in time it got canonized in different incarnations of the character, the most popular being the Velma from Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc., as it was revealed in 2020 by producer Tony Cervone, who also was involved in multiple other Scooby-Doo projects. And also, James Gunn came out to say that in the original script for the live-action Scooby movies, Velma was a lesbian. This is referring to the fact that every member of the gang has a catchphrase, except for Fred, and the meme that Fred's catchphrase is fuck. This was the first animated Scooby film to be released in cinemas, I think. And it's a shame that it sucked. I actually have a video from like a year ago in which I bashed this movie for a couple of minutes. I think that the video is pretty shit in terms of quality, but yeah, you can give it a watch if you'd want. I still want to summarize the basic reasonings behind my hate for the film. So, this is one of the worst Scooby films for me. Firstly, they changed most voice actors for more popular ones, which is the exact thing you'd expect from Hollywood to do. I remember reading about Matthew Lillard being replaced, and right from that point I knew that it would suck. Furthermore, they gave us another backstory of the gang, and how they met for like the 50th time. The story feels more like a kid action movie than what Scooby-Doo actually is supposed to be. There are a couple of funny scenes though, like the F-bomb one, the IKEA one, that was shown in like every trailer, and the infamous dick. Because I have the humor of a 5-year-old that's about to OD on sugar. And they've actually talked about taxis for like the first time in Scooby history. I always thought they had a gold machine or something similar to what they have in Solar Opposites, but no. I was wrong, because Shaggy and Scooby do not pay their taxes. Just like Shakira. Allegedly. Scooby-Doo probably has one of the largest collections of direct-to-video films. There has been at least one direct-to-video or DVD Scooby film released every single year since 1998, which is really impressive unless you rule out Scooby-Doo from 2002, which was released first as a theatrical release and only afterwards went to DVD, so it would not be fair with the fact that every other movie on this list went straight to video, and in that case they've missed only 1 year out of 23, which is still extremely impressive. And I know that you are waiting for this. The movies are Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, Scooby-Doo and the Legend of the Vampire, Scooby-Doo and the Monster of Mexico, Scooby-Doo and the Loch Ness Monster, Aloha Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo in Where's My Mommy, Scooby-Doo Pirates Ahoy, Chill Out Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King, Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword, Scooby-Doo Abracadabra-Doo, Scooby-Doo Camp Scare, Scooby-Doo Legend of the Phantasaur, Scooby-Doo Music of the Vampire, Big Top Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo Mask of the Blue Falcon, Scooby-Doo Adventures The Mystery Map, Scooby-Doo Stage Fright, Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery, Scooby-Doo Franken Trippy, Scooby-Doo Moon Monster Madness, Scooby-Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery, Lego Scooby-Doo Haunted Hollywood, Scooby-Doo Shaggy's Showdown, Lego Scooby-Doo Blowout Beach Bash, Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold, Scooby-Doo and the Gourmet Ghost, Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island, Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo The Sword and the Scoop, and last but not least, straight out of nowhere, Scooby-Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. And with that we conclude the first layer of the iceberg. How many did you know, or how many you did not? Leave it in the comments below, and now we move on with the second layer of an iceberg named Scooby-Doo. Amazing title, by the way, I forgot to mention it before. The first ever Scooby-Doo movie to be released, and it has its focus on Scooby being a movie star and the gang's mystery solving to be fake and only a show. So, one morning while filming their part of the Saturday morning cartoon, Shaggy and Scooby get shot from a cannon and fall. So they get tired of all this low-class production, especially Shaggy. Shaggy is a bit of an antagonist in this movie, but not really intentionally. He just wants him and especially Scooby to be big movie stars, so he goes to Le Président of the film and presents him with multiple shows ideas that are just real films and shows about Scooby-fied. An example is How Scooby Won the West, which I'm pretty certain is a parody of How the West Was Won. While Scooby and Shaggy present the ideas, the gang who at the time was going over the script finds out that Scooby wants to leave, so they start a nationwide protest to stop Scooby from leaving. CJ, the director, is not impressed by the ideas and movies, but the boys keep torturing the poor man with movies. But he is saved by the people outside the building chanting Scooby-Doo, we need you. Scooby feels touched by the words, so he decides to return to his original show, but Shaggy, the snake bastard that he is, doesn't give up that easily. So he returns to CJ to present 3 rip-offs of American sitcoms. Mork and Shaggy based on Mork and Mindy, Welcome Back Shaggy based on Welcome Back Kotter, and Shaggy and Hutch based on Starksy and Hutch. The director does the reasonable thing and ties Shaggy with the film roll and throws him out of the building, and that's the movie. An okay film. Oh, and it's also a bit of a musical. Have fun watching it. A spin-off series that's adult-oriented with Velma as a protagonist. The series was announced in February and we got the first look at it in May at the Warner Bros. Discovery Upfront, where Mindy Kaling, who voiced Velma, you probably know her from the hit TV show The Office or The Mindy Project, presented the first image of the series, which is quite interesting. I'm really looking forward to this series. I'm really curious to see what they do with it. But since the presentation, we haven't received like any more updates, except for Mindy saying that she's the voice of Velma on Twitter. I really hope it didn't get cancelled, along with the other shows that HBO Max is currently butchering. I really liked Close Enough, and I really like Titans, but they're rumored to be the next to be cancelled. But I hope it's not true. So yeah, what do you think about Velma? So, in an episode of Mystery Inc., the gang found themselves attending college for a bit in order to solve a mystery. In that episode, Fred joined a frat house and started doing some wrestling with the guys, and he said they were going to teach him a move called Happy Tapioca, which implied that he was gonna be blindfolded, submerged in pudding. But Urban Dictionary added that the move also implied butt-fucking the person before submerging them in the pudding. So yeah, Happy Tapioca everyone. This entry could make an entire video itself. There is so much to talk about this, so let's get into it. So, for a long time it was suspected that the Scooby-Doo 2002 live-action movie had originally a more adult-oriented cut, given the actors' responses in the interviews and Matthew Lillard's AMA-rated post in which he said that the monsters were originally, and I quote, really scary, they were softened. However, in 2017, 15 years after the film's release, James Gunn, the writer of the movie, said in a Facebook post that there was originally an R-rated cut of the movie. But that's about it. He didn't delve deeper into the subject. However, lucky us, we received an interview in March this year with the editor Kent Bida that edited both Scooby movies. That interview was a blast. I'll link it down below for you to watch. So, Kent Bida talked about the R-rated Gosnell cut of the movie, and the details are fabulous. The goal at first was to make a Scooby movie for all ages, but when they showed it to a test audience in 2001, many parents were not happy with it, and due to religious connotations, the audience took offense to the words demon and soul, and the premise of demons from outer space collecting the souls of students. So they had to change it to preacher and protoplasm, and as a result they had to reshoot scenes so the actors said the right thing. Furthermore, Shaggy was supposed to be a stoner. Yeah, I know, who'd have guessed, right? Besides the scene where the camera panned on the smoke from the grill while playing the funny Stranger Things song, and the Mary Jane joke from the airplane, Shaggy was supposed to have even more scenes like that. One of those being a scene in which the camera panned onto the mystery machine with a sign that said pot $5. But then the camera panned out and showed Shaggy and Scooby with a flower pot. Another gag was one in which Fred responded to Mr. Bean's comment that the kids seem possessed by saying that the only possession these kids need to worry about is when they go through customs. Yeah, there was no chance that one made the movie, Chief. There was other stuff like Velma having a crush on Daphne and singing a song and clearly referring to Daphne in the song. A scene in which Fred and Daphne apparently shared the room because Daphne was scared, but it was after revealed that she faked being scared and that it wasn't the only thing that she had faked. It's the wildest shit. I can't go over it all because the iceberg is already too massive, so I leave the Screen Rant article in the description of the video. Just read it, it's brilliant, you won't be disappointed. But, as a matter of fact, I am disappointed that the Gosnell cut will probably never see the light of day, which is very unfortunate. Still on the 2008 Scooby-Doo subject apparently, this was a gag in the first half of the movie before the monsters were revealed when the gang was exploring the island. The phone rang at a bar, the bartender picked it up and asked if there was a Mr. Doo around. And the guy asked if it was for Melvin Doo. But no, it was for Scooby-Doo. It's really dumb explaining jokes and my delivery is not helping. This is some gross and weird shit, okay? Like, why would you even put this together? Isn't Daphne like canonically 16? Even if she were of age, it would have been really weird. But she isn't, so it's 100 times worse. 4 million views, holy smokes, and 5,000 likes, what the fuck. Just check the hard drives of those 5k people that like the video, it's gonna be easy that way. This is brilliant because I am a big sucker for teen dramas. I know, I am a sinner, leave me alone. And the fact that this fan series is Scooby-Doo as a teen drama is brilliant. Even besides that it's of very high quality, especially considering the fact that it's fan-made, I advise you to watch the first episode. It's on YouTube, it has around 2 million views I think, and the people behind it have an Indiegogo for donations to help with the funds for the next episodes. And as of now, they are working on the second episode, and I'm really hyped to see what they do with the series and the story. So if you want to support this project, be sure to subscribe to their channel and maybe give out a donation if you want, but at least watch the episode, I promise it's really good. The late Don Knotts was a big actor back in the 60s and appeared in a lot of movies. He was infamous in the Scooby-Doo media for his cameos in 2 episodes of one of my favorite Scooby-Doo series, the new Scooby-Doo movies. He was also mentioned in the 2002 live-action Scooby film and had a look-alike background character in Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc., a true legend of cinematography. Rest in peace, Mr. Knotts. The infamous masterminds behind Scooby-Doo. They created childhoods for past, current, and future generations. They were the guys who created one of the most iconic characters in the whole world. Everyone knows Scooby-Doo. I had this for like a year. I had finally gotten this song out of my head. Why? Basically, this song was created by an artist named DJ Cass and became kind of like a viral dance in 2018, if I remember correctly. And it's really annoying and catchy. And now its chorus is stuck in my head again. I love the internet. Hanna-Barbera co-founder William Hanna said that he had always imagined the Scooby snack to have a caramelly flavor. Fast forward to 2002 and a certain DVD called Scooby-Doo's Creepiest Capers was released. The DVD featured 4 Scooby-Doo Where Are You episodes, those being Go Away Ghost Ship, Hassle in the Castle, The Haunted House Hang Up, and A Night of Fright Is No Delight. Furthermore, the DVD also featured a couple of special features, the most important for this entry being the Mystery Inc. yearbook, which had a segment in which the Scooby snack is described as having the taste of butterscotch morsel. At the end of the feature, there even was a test, and one of the questions was, what does a Scooby snack taste like? Kind of like doubling down on the butterscotch morsel explanation. Scooby-Dum is Scooby-Doo's mentally impaired cousin. Fun fact, who has mistakenly called Scooby's brother in 2 separate episodes, The Headless Horseman of Halloween and Vampire Bats and Scaredy Cats. Scooby-Doo made his debut in one of the best Scooby-Doo episodes in my opinion because of its setting and villain, that episode being the gruesome game of the Gator Ghoul, in which he is shown to be living with Ma and Pa Skillet. He went on to make 3 more appearances in the Scooby-Doo show, which were the 2 that I mentioned before and the Chiller Dealer movie thriller, and he also appeared in the Laugh Olympics, which we'll be talking about a bit later in the Iceberg, and I mean it when I say a bit, it's like the 10th entry from this point onward. Exactly what I said before. Scrappy held the series from sinking like the Titanic, and the fact that people clown on him is truly disgusting. It's the late 60s. Fred Silverman, executive producer for the daytime programming over at CBS, wanted to revitalize the Saturday morning cartoon lineup at CBS. So he came up with the Archie show, based on Bob Montana's book Archie. But that wasn't enough. He envisioned a show based on a teenage rock group who solved mysteries between their shows. He thought it would be kind of like a combination between his series The Archie Show and the 1940s I Love a Mystery radio serials. So, he entrusted Hannah and Joseph Barbera with this task. Barbera gave it a go, he came up with House of Mystery, but that wasn't good enough, so he passed down the task to story writers Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, as well as character designer
Iwa Takamoto.
They came up with the show Mysteries 5, which featured 5 teenagers, those being Geoff, Mike, Kelly, Linda, and Linda's brother WW, along with their bongo playing dog, Too Much. They removed the character Mike completely, they changed the characters' personalities and names as well. Geoff became Ronnie, and later was changed to Fred. Kelly became Daphne, Linda became Velma, and WW Shaggy. They repitched the show to Silverman, who liked the idea except for the title, so they changed it to Who's Scared, which Silverman presented to the CBS executives, but the president, Frank Stanton, felt that the artwork was too scary for the young audience, so he passed on it. And now, the infamous plane ride back, on which Silverman listened to Frank Sinatra's Strangers in the Night, and he felt inspired by his cat. Not shit, the other meaning, the imitation of instruments, that being the words dooby-dooby-doo. I read somewhere that he misunderstood them and heard Scooby-Dooby-Doo, but I can't seem to find it for some reason. However, any way you put it, those words being either misheard or fully comprehended by Silverman, they were the inspiration for Scooby's name, and retitle of the series to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? This is a really cool fan theory from almost a decade ago, I think. The theory suggests that the country in which Scooby-Doo is set is going through a period of economic depression, given the fact that all the places that the gang go to are either broken in some way or abandoned. The villain's objectives are always monetarily, and the fact that almost always they are entrepreneurs, scientists, etc. You know, people that are in professions in which normally you shouldn't have trouble getting along, getting a monetarily stable job through the legal way. And the fact that Shaggy and Scooby have a diet based around biscuits, and they go like full on ape mode every time they see proper food, as if they haven't had anything to eat in like 2 weeks. So yeah, overall a pretty cool fan theory. Scooby Apocalypse was a comic book series published by DC Comics. The series re-envisioned the lovely Mystery Inc., more particularly the 1969 version, and threw them into a post-apocalyptic world. The series was received pretty positively by critics, gaining a 7.4 out of 10 on the Comic Book Roundup website. This score is based on 210 reviews. It also had a pretty impressive number of issues, 36, being spread among 6 volumes, so if you like DC and Scooby, I'll suggest you give it a try. The corporate overlords at LEGO almost fainted when they heard that there was an IP that they hadn't turned into a commercializable construction toy to feed down the kids' throats. So they decided to not only make Scooby Lego sets, which never hit the stores in Romania, may I add, they also went all in, making 3 separate LEGO Scooby-Doo TV specials. LEGO Scooby-Doo Nighttime Terror from 2015, LEGO Scooby-Doo Haunted Hollywood from 2016, and LEGO Scooby-Doo Blowout Beach Bash from 2017. I really like this theme song. That says a lot about me. Generally, a person's favorite Scooby theme song says a lot about the personality. I consider them on the same level as the ink paintings that the psychiatrists use. Furthermore, it's a pretty unique take on the series, and a repeated mistake at the same time. In the 1980s the show was probably at its lowest, and one of the reasons is because the gang was separated. But they didn't learn, so we ended up with this. At the same time, I really like the art style. It's unique for Scooby, and the idea as well. It just doesn't really strike me as a Scooby series, but I still think you'd have a fun time with it if you were to watch it. I, for one, quite enjoyed it. This Scooby series continues the 80s trend to split the gang, separating Daphne, Shaggy and the dogs from Fred and Velma. This was the first instance of an overarching story in a Scooby-Doo show, and it presented actual ghosts. This series worked so that Mystery Inc. could run. As you've already guessed probably, combining overarching stories with Scooby-Doo works really well. So the show is really appreciated by the community, almost as if the fandom is not made out of 5-year-olds that go, "Oh, dogs speak, haha funny." But there is one thing about the series. It was cancelled before the finale, before the last episode. Who in the right mind does that? So the finale appeared in form of a movie in 2019, like 30 years or so after the release of the series, which is a bit disgusting in my opinion, and as I said in Scrappy's entries, they acted like Scrappy wasn't real. You don't do that to my boy. They also removed the paranormal aspect of it. Why are you doing this? This was the worst possible ending. Arabian Nights was a TV special from 1994 based around the book of 1001 Nights, with Hanna-Barbera characters thrown in the mix. I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but I remember hating it, except for the Magilla gorilla. It seemed cool. Anunnaki is a race of creatures that live in a separate dimension, and every few thousand years, during an event called Nibiru, the barrier between their world and ours grows weaker, allowing them to visit our dimension. They also are the ancestors of the animals that can talk, aka Scooby or Nova, and they played a massive part in the plot of Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. The Olympics, with Hanna-Barbera characters, which went on for 24 episodes in the late 1970s. The characters were spread across 3 teams: the Scooby-Doobies, made by Scooby-Doo, Babu, Blue Falcon, Brenda Chance, Captain Caveman, Didi Skyers, Dynomat, Hong Kong Phooey, Scooby-Dum, Shaggy Rogers, Speed Buggy, Taffy Dare, and Tinker. The Yogi Yahooies, with the members being Yogi Bear, Oogie Doggy, Blabber Mouse, Boo Boo Bear, Cindy Bear, Dixie, Doggy Daddy, Grape Ape, Hockey Wolf, Huckleberry Hound, Mr. Jinx, Pixie, Quick Draw McGraw, Super Snooper, Walligator, and Yak Doodle. And finally, the Really Rottens, decomposed by Mumbly, Daisy Mayhem, Dastardly Dalton, Dinky Dalton, Dirty Dalton, Dread Baron, Junior Creeply, Magic Rabbit, Mr. Creeply, Mrs. Creeply, Awful Octopus, Suey Pig, and the Great Fondue. The fun thing is that most of these IPs haven't seen New Country for longer than we've been alive. And one more thing before I forget, some certain Scooby episodes also ran during this block, which we'll get into a bit later. I absolutely love it. One of the first Scooby games I've ever played, and it's a masterpiece. All the famous villains, the soundtrack, everyone's favorite dog, heck, even the fucking coins are amazing. And it's really fucking hard. Cyber Chase was hard, but no other Scooby game can compare with this one. During quarantine, I played this game for the first time since I was a child. Back then, I didn't even know what to do, and I thought I got pretty far because I had reached the Black Knight. But upon replaying, yeah, the Black Knight scene is like at the first hour mark, and it's the first boss of the game. I remember also getting stuck at the river part at the beginning of the Ratatouille game. I tried to beat it for an accumulated number of 4 hours, spread across a whole week, and I still couldn't do it, so I quit. That makes me sound mentally challenged. But yeah, Night of 100 Frights is a must play if you're a Scooby fan, or if you just enjoy video games in general. This will be the most toned down version of Scooby-Doo. I don't understand why it's even made. We have a pup named Scooby-Doo. This is coming in 2024 on Cartoon Network and HBO Max. And there's no way a kid older than 3 would enjoy this. It's horrible. I hate it. Like, imagine announcing Velma, an actual adult Scooby series, and then you announce something like this. The one good thing about it is that Scooby and Shaggy are counselors at the camp in which the show takes place. So that means they're adults, thank god. Maybe it would be fun, like that episode of What's New Scooby-Doo. I really like that one, but I don't have high hopes for this. Shaggy's original voice actor, the late Casey Kasem, quit the Scooby scene in the 90s, rightfully so, because he was a vegetarian and a big animal rights activist, and they wanted him to appear as Shaggy in a Burger King commercial. What the fuck? So he was replaced by Billy West, but when they decided to make What's New Scooby-Doo, they wanted him to come back on the team. One of the conditions for him to replace Shaggy was the character following a vegetarian diet. I know that this entry says vegan, I'm more than sure that he was vegetarian, but mistakes happen. This character is from the animated series Star Wars Clone Wars. Not the Clone Wars, just Clone Wars. The shittier version if you want. And the character was just Shaggy in the Star Wars universe. He was a Jedi, which was really cool. I'm really proud of Copycat Shaggy, but he eventually got killed by General Grievous during the Clone Wars. Very not happy, very unfun. This is a series of Scooby-Doo parody edits that are really reminiscing of the MLG edits videos to me. You know, the ones that were floating around YouTube like almost a decade ago. Oh, I see. For real now, just watch it. It's really funny. It stood the test of time. The 5 college consortium represents 4 liberal arts colleges and 1 university, all within a 10-mile radius of one another in the Connecticut River Pioneer Valley of western Massachusetts. This theory suggests that every member of the Scooby Gang is a stereotype of the students of these certain colleges, those being Scooby and the University of Massachusetts, because UMass students are usually stereotyped as being rather goofy, Shaggy and the Hampshire College because of the scruffy appearance and other reasons, Velma and the Smith College because brains and women, Fred and the Amherst College because of good looks and money, and finally Daphne and Mount Holyoke because fashion. Before we talked about the R-rated scene, and now we're here to talk about the deleted scenes that are available to watch on YouTube. And there's even a version with the commentary of Raja Gosnell, the director of the movie. So let's get on to it. The first removed scene was an animated intro that was made in order to transition from the animated scene to the live action and to remember where Scooby came from. He had an amazing song in the background, which is Shaggy Where Are You by the artist Shaggy, and it would have been a classic if it actually dropped in the full version, but it unfortunately got removed from the final project because everyone knew who Scooby was already, and because it kinda fucked with the pacing of the movie because the actual story starts with the gang's arrival on Spooky Island. So delaying it did not help the movie. One person said in the comments that it could have been used in the end credits, and I absolutely agree. It wouldn't have fucked with the pace, and it's an amazing animation with an amazing song, so why waste it? I really suggest you watch it yourself. The next 3 scenes that got removed were again because of pacing issues. The scenes that I'm talking about are the flashbacks of what Fred, Velma and Daphne did during the gang separation. Fred was at a fan convention in the flashback where he talked about his book. It even featured a small homage to the series because Fred showed the Black Knight ghost mask. Velma's one was in a therapy center, and in Daphne's, it showed her training that would eventually come in handy against Budget Rey Mysterio. I can agree with Mr. Gosnell on these ones. They were too long, and coming one after the other like that definitely would have fucked with the pacing, and not in a good way. The next scene feels pretty essential to me. It shows the gang's members going in different directions and inspecting the island, trying to solve the mystery on their own. Velma runs into the guy that she would eventually run into later at the bar, and the guy makes an interesting remark. It shows the ritual guy buying the chicken, giving us an explanation why Daphne followed him to his home, and Fred being his usual lost self by missing a clue that was right behind him. This next scene is one of the best in the entire movie in my opinion. I've told you about a scene where Velma sang a song that was clearly intended at Daphne. The song is called Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Frankie Valli, and Linda Cardellini did a fantastic job. That segment is unbelievable, and it shows why Scooby was clapping while standing beside the window when the monster appeared, but unfortunately it was cut because of story related issues. I don't agree with it. Plenty of movies had happy fancies before something bad or important happened. If that's why it was cut out, it makes for a great cutaway if you want. I really believe it should have remained, especially for all the work Linda Cardellini put into it. The next scene is again a Linda one. It showed her dancing in the locker room, and apparently it was removed because of the test viewings. So again, ruining fucking films. Some parents in the audience got offended because they thought the girls were in their underwear. So Mr. Gosnell removed it because he didn't want to offend anyone, which is really stop the guy. The thing is, they clearly are all wearing bathing suits, so it's quite unfortunate that it got removed because of something that was not there. The next scene is showing Daphne's spirit being removed and the monster possessing her, whilst Matthew Lillard puts on an amazing performance as Shaggy in the background. The scene got removed because it would have been a little too intense for the kids, and because they didn't want to imply a violation because of the way the monster possesses Daphne, and I agree with that decision. The last scene is one where Scooby fakes a heart attack, and the caretaker says that it's the 8th time he does that, which is really funny. It got removed because it changed the vibe too much, because it would have intertwined with the scene of the gang on the beach where they reunite and they're like, let's go save Scooby, and him just faking heart attacks wouldn't quite fit the scheme, And those are all. I would have loved to see the R-rated cut with all of these scenes maybe. I think it would have been a very fun movie to watch with friends. I understand that they couldn't play it in the cinemas, but a DVD release with those features added or just the deleted scenes, since most of these are already edited, and also adding the R-cut would have been a bit too much work, would still be really cool. Especially the alternate intro, that's amazing. There's no way this is in every intro. I'm being bamboozled here. I've seen the whole show twice and I haven't picked up on it. There's no way. Episode 7, Season 1, one of my favorites. There's no way. My life is crumbling in front of me. Holy. Season 2, Episode 4, again one of my favorites. No! Come on! At least Season 3! Please be fixed. I need something. Come on, Episode 5, Season 3, the Tower Monster, come on! I'm at a loss for words. I am truly the most oblivious person ever to exist. Moving on. Even though it looks like a fan-made video, the Scooby-Doo project is a Halloween special that aired during Cartoon Network's Scooby-Doo Where Are You Marathon on October 31st, 1999. It was broadcast in small segments between actual episodes, and at the end of the marathon, it aired in full with an extended ending. It's a really good segment, the characters actually sound real, sound scared, it's scary, and at the end when they unmask the villain and don't think that they fucked it again and made the villain just a guy behind the mask, they keep the supernatural element as they get chased by the real monster and they go missing. I like how it was put together, mixing 2D characters with the real environment. It works perfectly in this instant, and I advise you give it a watch. It's like 18 minutes long and it's really good. Velma appears as a cameo in the second Lego movie, and when the director, Mike Mitchell, is asked why Velma and where the rest of the gang is, he simply says that every time they screen the movie with just Velma appearing, the whole crowd knew who she was and people would go crazy. Besides, in a post-apocalyptic world, Velma would have been the only one to have survived. The other kids wouldn't have made it. I mean, that's one heck of an explanation, I'll give props to that. So, in 1976, 7 years after the gang's first ever mystery, Scooby-Doo moved from CBS to ABC, and the Scooby-Doo show was the first Scooby show to run on the network. The first 9 episodes of the 16-episode 1978 season of Scooby-Doo were broadcast under the Scooby-Doo Where Are You name. It unfortunately was cancelled soon afterwards, and the remaining 7 episodes that were intended for the revival of Where Are You were instead broadcast during the Scooby's All-Star block, also known as the Laugh Olympics, of which we talked about earlier. All 16 episodes were rerun during this block and later put together in order to assemble the 3rd season of the Scooby-Doo show, thus stealing Where Are You's 3rd season. The 3rd James Gunn movie was the one to make the theatrical released live-action Scooby movies a trilogy, but unfortunately, even though the first 2 movies were box office hits, they received negative reviews from critics and fans alike, and Warner Bros. Was disappointed with the box office returns, even though they grossed over $400 million total. That makes the series a duology, and unfortunately, we were never able to see the 3rd installment, whose location, according to James Gunn, was Scotland, where the gang was hired by a town that complained about being plagued by monsters, and something about Shaggy and Scooby coming to terms with their own prejudice and narrow belief systems. It sounds like something out of an apology video, like... was the designer for Mystery Inc. from the original show, Scooby-Doo Where Are You, and Scrappy-Doo. He was an amazing artist. He also worked on multiple Scooby projects, one of which was the greatest Scooby movie, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. He unfortunately passed away in 2007 because of a heart attack at the age of 81. This man gave us the original Scooby-Doo, so we'll always be grateful for his artistic genius. Rest in peace, Mr. Takamoto. Scoob and Shag is a webcomic created by a guy called Dingo, and it's the most 3 AM drug-induced type of storytelling I've ever seen, and it's amazing. I advise you to read it. I don't want to spoil it. The first 15, what are they called, like pages? I don't know, but the first 15 are just random gags, but from there on the story begins. It's brilliant, and it's still going on today. The art style gets better and better, and it might just be the best comic I've ever read. I am underselling it when I say that it's brilliant. You have to read it to believe it. I also got a lot of Junji Ito vibes from it, which is also a plus. And if you read Junji Ito, then you can kind of picture what level of entertainment this comic provides. And also, it's the biggest crossover you'll ever see. Like, read it please. Toon Dates was a Cartoon Network commercial, non-canon if I may add, in which Daphne went on a date with Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie. It's a funny commercial, you could find it on YouTube if you want to watch it, and yeah, nothing more than that. This is a post-credit scene from the 2004 masterpiece Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. So take that, Marvel, Scooby did it first, haha. In this scene, Scooby shows a code that you have to use in order to get the true ending to the Game Boy Advance game adaptation of the movie. When you reach the end, the game asks you to input a code if you've seen the movie. If you don't input the correct code, aka SD2, the ending doesn't spoil the real villain, just shows the gang's surprised reaction, which I think is really cool, to not spoil the movie for the people who hadn't seen it already. What is way cooler is that if you put 2 and 2 together and guess that the initials of the movie plus the number is the code, you would find out the villain before the movie even came out, because the game got released 10 days before the actual movie. Really useless but cool information. I love it. Scooby's first puppet adventure arrived in 2013 with a runtime of 44 minutes under the name Scooby-Doo Adventures: The Mystery Map. And it's not half bad, given the fact that it was a puppet movie. Huge props to the Big Hero 6 who controlled the puppets and brought this movie to life. You need to give it props for creativity and runtime. 43 minutes, jeez. Do you recognize this sound? Yep, this is the song from Scooby-Doo 2002. It's called Land of a Million Drums. It's by hip-hop duo Outkast, who are also responsible for hits like Miss Jackson and that song that's in the background of that dancing duck with the cap. This title was used to refer to other mystery-solving crews, most notably being the one from the American drama Buffy the Vampire Slayer, featuring the one and only Sarah Michelle Gellar. In the show, there are a couple of Scooby elements introduced, and the gang actually being referred to as the Scooby Gang by the character Xander Harris in the second season of the show. The band behind the songs The Ghost is here, and It's Terror Time Again from the best Scooby-Doo feature-length film, Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. These two songs might be the most iconic montage/chase songs in Scooby-Doo, and they fully deserve it. This is a 3-disc compilation of Scooby-Doo educational games, the stuff that your parents will get to while growing up. Either this or Far Cry 3, depending on the parents. As you might guess, I was not the kid with the Far Cry 3 in the 4th grade. And now that I think about it, it's a good thing. The combination of Joker and Heisenberg, known as Voss, wouldn't have been that great of an influence on my younger self. Back to education. The game features 3 different fun adventures. Scooby-Doo Showdown in Ghost Town, where you need to remember the color of the curtains in the saloon in order to solve the mystery. Scooby-Doo Phantom of the Night, and Scooby-Doo Jinx at the Sphinx. Scooby-Doo being the wordplay in title since 1969. The original opening for Scooby-Doo Where Are You ran for only the first 2 episodes, and then they changed it to what people know and love to this day. And when you watch it, you completely understand why. It sounds like a YouTube edit. Just bits and pieces from the series soundtrack thrown in there with sound effects and Shaggy saying the title of the series, in what sounds like an unedited voice recording. It's unbelievable, it's so funny. I can't believe this even was allowed to run for 2 episodes. One more thing that this special opening had to it, which is really cool, and I'm really disappointed that it got removed, is that the episodes had special title cards. Not a generic image with a gif of the gang running. Look at these two, For What a Night for a Night and A Clue for Scooby-Doo. They look fantastic. Yeah, it's a bit more work to make them, but I'm 100% sure they would have been appreciated a lot by the fans. But yeah, at least we got 2, the latter featuring my favorite Scooby monster. I haven't mentioned this when I was at the Mystery 5/Who's Scared, because I saw this entry a bit lower and I thought it could wait for a bit. So, The Many Loves of Dobby Gillies is an American sitcom from the late 1950s, whose characters were used as inspiration for Mystery Inc.'s characters, along with the aforementioned Archie show. This 2001 Halloween special aired in segments during Cartoon Network's 24 Hours of Due marathon. Then, in its full form, kind of like the Scooby-Doo Project, the title is obviously a pun on the classic horror movie Night of the Living Dead. This special was presented as an episode of the new Scooby-Doo movies because it featured the series intro, but when the title card came along, it showed the title of the special and the guest as Gary Coleman. The dynamic of the characters is really fun. It also played kind of like a parody on Scooby-Doo tropes, one being the gang's addiction to mysteries. In the beginning, the gang ran into multiple problems, as they always do. For example, the mystery machine running out of gas or having a flat tire on purpose. Fred is a maniac. But Gary fixed those, making the gang mad that they didn't have an excuse to solve mysteries in the middle of the night. This special also featured the one and only stand-up comedian David Cross, famously known for his role as Uncle Ian in the Alvin and the Chipmunks franchise. Let's go! It's a fun watch, it's about 17 minutes long, but it really feels like only 5. This entry refers to a short called Cartoon Network Mall, where Johnny Bravo is in your average Joe's diner and he tells bartender Fred Flintstone about the time when he felt love for Velma. They're apparently dated, but when he asked her to marry him, she said that work comes first. Poor old Johnny. When he finished the story, he spotted Melody of Josie and the Pussycats in the corner of the diner, so he went to terrorize try to date her. Cartoon Network had a bit of an inclination to marathons in the late 90s and early 2000s because this is the 3rd entry regarding shorts played during commercials between episodes. So, this marathon in question was called Those Meddling Kids 25 Hours of Due, a 25-hour Scooby marathon that ran on October 24th, 1998. During commercials, 8 different shorts called Cases played. These shorts talked about the origins of the gang, like how they got around places before they were old enough to drive, how Shaggy found the mystery machine, what the gang thought about one another, everything ending with Fred saying, "I love you guys," which was really sweet. As I've mentioned in the Mystery 5/Who's Scared entry, the infamous plane ride on which Fred Silverman listened to the song Strangers in the Night by Frank Sinatra. He felt inspired by the words "Dooby-Dooby-Doo," or he misinterpreted them as Scooby-Dooby-Doo. I've heard both stories, but the details don't really matter. The thing that counts is that those words were the inspiration and basis for the name that every kid of the past 3 generations knows. Velma's character was heavily implied to be Jewish, from Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, where Velma was shown to be listening to klezmer music and often exclaiming "Oi" and "Oi, Gewalt," to the movie Frankencreepy, where she was said to be of German ancestry, and given the fact that the words she exclaimed are of Yiddish origin, a West Germanic language spoken by the Ashkenazi Jews, who many immigrated from Germany and Eastern Europe to the big US of A. I think it's safe to assume that Velma is Jewish, which I think is really cool. I like when we get more in-depth information about characters in any franchise. A lot of Scooby movies have a DVD release, and some of those have exclusive music videos included, those being Scooby-Doo Winter Wonder Dog with the song Christmas with the Monsters, Scooby-Doo's Greatest Mysteries with the tune Coolsville, Scooby's Mystery Mix, which is a techno mix made specifically for the release of the 1998 soundtrack, Scooby-Doo's Snack Tracks, the Ultimate Collection, Scooby and Shaggy Love to Eat, that was featured on multiple DVDs, for example Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf and Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, Scooby-Doo's Gone Hollywood on the Scooby-Doo Meets the Harlem Globetrotters DVD, just to give a couple of examples. Ted Nichols' Genius, represented by the Scooby-Doo Where Are You original score, was not available for a long time until some of the original recordings were found and uploaded on the internet, with an additional 10 minutes of background music that was not even featured in the episodes. This score has to be one of my favorites out of every series, it's absolutely brilliant. I go from time to time and just listen to it in the background as I'm working on something. It's just too good, and I don't think the original series would have been as popular and appraised as it is today if not for Ted Nichols' genius in musical composure. Zoinks Points was an online rewards program, launched in 2009 and ended activity in 2018. This point system allowed you to purchase online games, activities, videos and downloadables, whatever those are. So basically just mini games and videos that would just be segments cut out of movies which you could find on YouTube or something. In order to obtain these points, you had to put in a code that would receive alongside a piece of Scooby-Doo merchandise when you order it. Nothing special, it feels so mid-2000s, like when companies found the internet and had no idea what to do with it. But the fact that this was kept until 2018, fucking 2018, when you probably could find most Scooby-Doo movies fully uploaded on YouTube, probably, is quite impressive. I like to think that they were fully dedicated to this reward system and did not want to put it down unless they had to. Or they just forgot about it until just an intern asked about it or something. The Scooby-Doo Spooky Coaster is a roller coaster from the Warner Bros. Movie World theme park located in Australia. The ride is based on the Spooky Island Castle from the 2002 live action. The surprising thing is that the ride is still open 20 years after release. That's really impressive. It must be really popular. It got a redesign in 2018, also changing its name to Scooby-Doo Spooky Coaster Next Generation, which operates all year round except for a seasonal closure due to necessary maintenance and safety checks. Scooby Addicts is a massive Scooby-Doo fan website that contains information about any Scooby subject you'd want to find about, especially information about what happened this exact day X number of years ago. It's really well crafted, and if you are a big Scooby fan, I'd advise you to check it out. You'll probably like it. Danielle Meagher possesses the largest collection of Scooby-Doo memorabilia in the world. The actual count is 1806 items, which is absolutely mad. Huge props to Danielle for pulling this off, and massive respect for the dedication. She's a lifelong Scooby fan who began collecting at the mere age of 14, and she wanted to break the world record to have something to show for her hard work. She managed to pull off this IRL Platinum achievement on the 21st of March 2018. There are 3 instances of the Shaggy snacks being shown in the series, and every time they appear, they are a different type of snack. I've never witnessed something this inconsistent. All things considered, let's take a look at these snacks in chronological order. The chronology not being the order of the series being released, but the Scooby-Doo universe's chronological order. I probably confused everyone, but let's do it. The first occasion in which the Scooby snacks were featured was in the 3rd season of A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, where the Shaggy snacks were just Scooby snacks with a named replacement. The following instance is in the 1st season of Where Are You, where Daphne presented Shaggy with the most horrendous piece of cuisine I've ever seen. It's a pot pie made with pizza crust, cherries, pepperoni, and anchovies in chocolate sauce. I wouldn't feed this foul Chicago deep dish pizza wannabe to my worst enemy. Lastly, the final illustration of the Shaggy snacks is in the new Scooby and Scrappy-Doo show, where they are featured as circular biscuits. That's it, the average diet of a vegetarian. Or pescatarian, I just realized. Anchovies are fish. Oh my god, what a blast from the past. This unlocked some memories I forgot that I had. Crystal Cove Online was, as its title suggests, an online game where you could solve a new mystery every week because they would be released along with new episodes, so stuff wouldn't be spoiled. Unfortunately, it only was available for the 1st season of the show, so only 26 mysteries, which is not that bad, especially if you're a big fan of the series. Wednesday is Missing is the third episode of the new Scooby-Doo movies, which hasn't been released as purchasable to this day because of copyright issues. Other 8 episodes were in this situation, but fortunately their problems got resolved and the episodes got put together in the DVD collection, the new Scooby-Doo movies, The Lost Episodes, making Wednesday is Missing the only unofficially released as purchasable Scooby episode. If you're wondering which episodes those were, well, we have A Good Medium is Rare, featuring guest star Phyllis Diller, Sandy Duncan's Jekyll and Hyde, featuring Sandy Duncan, The Secret of Shark Island, featuring the duo Sonny and Cher, The Haunted Horseman of Hagglethorne Hall, featuring Davy Jones, the actor, not the local guy, The Phantom of the Country Music Hall with Right I Meant Jerry Reed, The Haunted Showboat, featuring Scooby-Doo Copycat, Josie and the Pussycats, Mystery in Persia with Ginny and Babu, and lastly, The Spirited Spooked Sports Show featuring actor Tim Conway. Scooby-Doo in Stage Fright is a live stage performance that debuted in 2001 and was later available on VHS in 2002. It was written and directed by Jim Millan and it was presented as a long-lost episode of the original series. The premise of this show is that the gang travels to Chicago, where Daphne's uncle, probably the 784th one, is making a horror film for the production company Clawhammer Pictures. The set is obviously haunted by a ghost with a keen eye for material things, jewelry to be specific. Like every Scooby episode, this ends with the gang catching the culprit and teaching us, as always, that the real monsters are humans. So deep. Artist Travis Folligant has put together one of the most fun and creative pieces of fan art I've ever seen. The series, called Lost Mysteries, depicts the gang in situations where they face horror icons. For example, John Carpenter's The Thing, The Witches, Black Phillip, Regan McNeil from the classic The Exorcist, Dr. Loomis and the iconic Shape from Halloween, Jason Voorhees from every Friday film except the original, Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Ghostface from Scream, which is also my all-time favorite horror movie, also the Xenomorph, Candyman, and many more. But the most important thing is that they all look brilliant and perfectly capture the original Scooby art style. A round of applause to Mr. Folligant for bringing this series of art images to life. This football player, yes, football, not soccer, you are the weird one in America, has the nickname Shaggy, because as you can see, it resembles the lovable animated goof. 35-year-old right back from the Mexican League, probably defends better than Trent, if I'm quite honest. Hey is a song by the late artist MF Doom. The song is off his 1999 album Operation Doomsday, and it finds its way on this list because it samples the intro from the new Scooby-Doo movies. The Cartoon Network election from the year 2000 was the first installment of Cartoon Network's presidential election. It featured 50 candidates and viewers could vote for them on the Cartoon Network website, where they also had 10 hours of content from each of the candidates in the matter to help with the voting process and keep the kids busy. The winner, with 17.4 of the votes, was everyone's favorite Great Dane, Scooby-Doo. That 17.4 is quite a big difference from the runner-ups, which were the Powerpuff Girls with 11.1. The only election that followed was the 2004 one, where it was stated that Ed, and Eddie were current presidents, which means that Scooby unfortunately resigned before the campaign. There is a fan theory which developed on Tumblr of all places that speculates that the gang is a polyamorous family, which means they're all fucking each other. The examples they used in the thread are from multiple series. The first one is from the Valentine's Day special episode from What's New Scooby-Doo, where the person that made the post guessed that the boys and the girls lived in separate houses because the studio did not want to imply, more of trying to avoid the implication that Daphne and Fred were sleeping with one another. But that attempt backfired because they thought that now it seems like, and I quote, Daphne and Velma are a comfortably domestic couple and Fred is trying to learn how to live with his boyfriend's overexcitable and really hungry Grey Dane. Which is, one way to look at it. One of the other examples is from Mystery Inc., where Fred tells the leader of the Goblin biker gang, Thingy, to call him Fred unless they're dating, because then he should call him Freddy. And in a scene from the last episode of the first season, I think, Shaggy called Fred Freddy. So, yeah. This is a Brazilian-Portuguese fan film which got released 2 days before Christmas in 2019. It's a pretty long film, 1.5 hours. That's really good for a fan film. Huge props to the guys and gals behind it that put it together. I unfortunately cannot give you feedback on it because it's in Portuguese and it doesn't have any subtitles unless I watch it with the auto-generated ones that everyone knows are more miss than hit. So yeah, if you speak Portuguese, give it a watch. I'm sure it's great. Cutthroat Toe is an antagonist that appeared in 3 of the 5 latest Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movies. those being Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, where he sets up an abandoned mall as a fake crime scene, so he blames the gang for catching the wrong guy. Also because he's a sheriff, actually a fake sheriff, restricts the gang from solving mysteries. That forces them to sell their belongings, and that starts the actual plot of the film. In Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island, where he is still determined to keep the gang out of business, and Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, where he is the main antagonist. The reason he hates the gang so much is that he once was the CEO of a chemical company where he undertook the identity of the trash master of Scranton to keep people away from his business, but the gang caught him and sent him to jail. This guy actually has lore, holy shit. It's even wilder the fact that this guy is a Scooby-Doo villain, where even the main characters don't have complex lore in like 90% of the series. I know the entry says 2 different episodes, but for the love of God, the only one that pops up when you look it up and search for it is the one that the Iceberg maker provided himself with a link. The episode in question is Vampire Bats and Scaredy Cats. Its alternate version is in the form of a rough cut that was released as a part of the 2001 VHS set Scooby-Doo's Spookiest Tales. The episode differs from the official release by having a more flashed out color palette, not so smooth animation, and a lot more different camera angles. The Groovy Gang is a Scooby-Doo parody from the American sci-fi series The Venture Bros. This was a sad attempt at giving Fred a catchphrase, and it didn't quite catch on. This refers to the early 2000s official Cartoon Network bumper where Fred just let it all rip. He doesn't keep back, he just goes full on bleep mode when talking about how people care so much about the ascot that he's wearing, because Fred is a true believer of being able to express himself. And fashion, if that wasn't obvious already. In the 2004 Scooby-Doo live-action movie, they decided to stick more with the source material, a thing that was not present in the first adaptation. So they had multiple monsters in mind, some of which actually got costumes, but they were cut from what I assume were budget issues. These monsters were revealed in July of this year in a never-before-seen footage that was presented in a JB and Millie podcast episode in which they interviewed Peter Crossman, who was a visual effects supervisor for both the theatrically released live-action movies. So the monsters in question that were removed from the final project are the Creeper, which looks okay, the Tiki Witch Doctor, which looks absolutely amazing, and his movements are so on point, I really would have wanted to see him in the movie. The freaking Ghost Clown, oh my god, it looks so good. I think I mentioned this before, but if not, I'll say it now. I'm a big sucker for live actions. There's just this appealing look of something being brought to life, and I love it. Following the Ghost Clown, we have Chingerstein, which we at least got in costume form in the opening scene, so that's that. Next up, there's a variation of the Headless Horseman and the Great Pirate Redbeard. The next in line is a monster that I just cannot pin down which cartoon monster it's based on. My guess would be a vampire, so just let me know in the comments below if you know this monster. Following that, we have another classic, The Witch from Which Witch is Which, and that there wraps everything up. Those are all the cut monsters from the final project. As previously mentioned, Fred Silverman was a CBS executive who played a big part in the making of Scooby-Doo, especially when it came to the Mutt's name. Rest in peace, legend. There is a Scooby-Doo monster truck which debuted in 2013 with Nicole Johnson as the driver, and the team with multiple trucks over the years participated in major Monster Jam tournaments, almost every year since its debut. The last entry from this level follows a fan theory that suggests that given each character's different nature, the fact that they form a friend group does make sense unless the implication of a third party. That one, in our case, is the Vietnam War. The fans point out that chronologically it makes sense. The original series takes place in 1969, right in the middle of the Vietnam War, and Fred being of age, it may mean that he got drafted for the war, but he decided to run away with Daphne, his fiancée. Shaggy, being an obvious hippie, and Velma, a clear activist, just made sense for the gang to get together. Scooby doesn't have a reason, he's just Shaggy's dog, he goes with him. The Hanna-Barbera Educational Film Strips is a series of animated film strips with the purpose of educating kids on various subjects. There are 26 in total, with 7 featuring our lovely Mr. Ing. In the first, Velma explains to Shaggy and Scooby the basic parts of speech, then about the locus of points in various geometric principles, and others like the difficulties of acne and how to prepare a resume. This is a theory that suggests that you can tie a good majority of animated fiction and cartoons back to Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's Maze Chase is Scooby's first ever electronic adventure. The game was released in 1983 and it sets our canon in an environment that is reminiscent of another media giant. The fact that this game was originally supposed to be something else and Scooby-Doo's name was just plastered over it because the company Metal Electronics had a Scooby license from Hanna-Barbera and just wanted to cash in on it, makes me hate this game even more. This fan theory suggests that the gang split up, hence why Shaggy is only accompanied by the dogs for the better part of the 1980s and Daphne at a point. After the split, Shaggy wanted to change himself, to get a new identity, and the change of clothes was just enough for him. He blew all of his money on a new car as well, which he used to get to his uncle's house to retrieve his inheritance in Scooby-Doo and the Boo Brothers. Afterwards, Scooby blew all the money, so they went searching for a new job. For example, as coaches at Miss Grimwood's finishing school in Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, where Shaggy is spotted by Count Dracula, the father of one of the students, who turns Shaggy in a werewolf and makes him compete in his race in Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Fortunately, he escapes. In the process of him turning back into a human, he enters a time vortex and is sent back to the past, in the future Scooby-Doo movies, which explains his poor economic state in Scooby-Doo and the Zombie Island. This is one of my favorite Scooby-Doo fan theories. I like how it tries to make sense of all the different series and movies, and I think it did a pretty good job at it. When it says early, we're talking early, like ZX Spectrum early. The Scooby game in question that got released for that personal computer and the Commodore 64 is Scooby-Doo 1986, which is reminiscent to me of the early Simpsons Bart Game Boy games. This is a song from the 1966 movie The War of the Gargantuas, which was used in the 9th episode of Mystery Inc. It was called the Battle of the Humangonauts, and as you can see, there are some similarities between the two. This entry refers to a story titled Dark Dreaming Scooby, which was uploaded on fanfiction.net in 2011 by user WakeGirl14. The story was a crossover between the Scooby-Doo universe and the show Dexter. In the opening of the summary of the story, WakeGirl14 wrote, "Scooby-Doo has been found dead in Miami," which is random. So by internet logic, funny. Which I agree, it's pretty funny. This was a tag that got removed along with others in an incident in which Tumblr was forced to purge a lot of hashtags. And no one knows if this one referred to the Scooby-Doo character, but honestly, I don't think it does. It wouldn't quite make sense. In 1996, the folks over at TBS decided to put together all of their children-oriented cartoons under the name Disaster Area, to make a separation between them and regular shows. Shows like the Jetsons or the Looney Tunes were a part of that, and also our very own Mr. Scoobert. They started playing ads for it a year later in 1997, one or two even talking about Scooby-Doo. Following the release of Scooby-Doo Frankencrippy in 2014, fans were pretty riled up on Twitter, and for very good reasons. I know, Twitter shitting on something with a good reason. Firstly, let's steadily break things through. The movie focuses on the gang trying to solve a mystery in Velma's uncle's haunted castle, which unleashes a curse on Mystery Inc., forcing them to lose what they hold most dear. Scooby and Shaggy lose their appetite, and Daphne gets overweight. Yep, being fat is a curse, everyone. The most horrible thing that could happen to a person. Daphne even starts crying and breaking mirrors. The writers took a deep hit of that Soulja pack before making the script. Like, what message are they trying to send the kids? Oh hey little Jimmy, you better give up on those chocolate eggs or you'll be a big fatso and life will turn into a living hell. The fact that this went through is baffling to me. Why couldn't they curse Daphne in a normal, level-headed way? Like, for instance, take her fashion sense away, make her wear poorly thought color choice combinations, or something reasonable for Christ's sake. Anything would have been better than villainizing being overweight, especially when your product is intended to be consumed by a mostly kid audience. In 2019, the Scooby-Doo team-up comic released its 50th issue, which happened to also be its last, but it went out with a bang. The issue brings together Mystery Inc. gangs from all over the place, and Batmite, and Scooby-Mite, and Batman, and Robin. It's full of characters, it's amazing, just look at this image. The Scooby-Doo / Dynamite Hour was a cartoon series that aired on ABC in the latter part of 1976. The original intro of this series was changed, but you can see that it was used as guidance when making the intro for the Scooby-Doo show. The first computer virus ever created was called the Creeper. It was an experimental computer program written by Bob Thomas in 1971, and its name originates from the infamous Scooby-Doo monster. The Scooby-Doo and the Toon Tour of Mysteries campaign took place in the early 2000s. In specially marked Kellogg's cereal boxes, you'd get one of 5 DVDs, each containing 3 different episodes from popular cartoon shows like Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, The Powerpuff Girls, and our very own Scooby-Doo. Along with the episodes, there was some bonus content like riddles, bloopers, and a music video featuring artist will.i.am, the voice of Moto Moto and the visionary behind the soundtrack for Madagascar Escape to Africa, which features the best song from any animated media to ever exist. In the year 1990, Hanna-Barbera announced the Scooby-Doo live-action movie to be in the making at Universal. It originally had been planned to be released in 93, but it didn't happen, and in 96 Craig Titley wrote a script for it. That same year, Warner Bros. Acquired Scooby-Doo, but they didn't want to use the script because it was written before they were the big boss, which makes no sense, but okay. Craig Titley also wrote a draft for the Scooby live action that actually came to fruition, but James Gunn made it whole. Think of it as a Christmas tree. Craig set up the tree, but the Gunn got to play with the ornaments. This entry, though, refers to that 1996 draft that got thrown away by Mr. Bros. I unfortunately, as much as I would want, do not have the time to read the script, which is over 100 pages long. But for my own luck, Ringo provided this entry with a link to the Internet Archive website where you can watch a deleted video by YouTuber Bedhead Bernie in which he talks about the script. And from his summary, it sounds awesome. It apparently was an origin story for the gang. They were in college, the first half was focused on a masked creep, which turned out to be Fred, and the latter on a supernatural force that explains why they stay together. Mr. Bernie even called it a love letter to Scooby-Doo, which sounds really nice and makes me wanna actually see this now as a live action feature. But this has less of a chance of happening than either of us winning the lottery, cause we got Mr. Ink, which is a banger of an origin story and has guys in masks, as well as supernatural beings that explain why the gang holds together. Huge thanks to Mr. Bernie for that summary, it really helped me out. This not only concerns Scooby-Doo, but also Shrek and Dora the Explorer from what I've read. Their image is plastered on junk food, and when given the choice, kids would rather eat that food because it features their favorite cartoon characters on the box, which is pretty shameless advertising. In the hit Scooby-Doo game Night of 100 Frights, special particles would appear when you'd collect Scooby snacks and kill enemies, I think, on the 9th of January. Scooby posting was a Tumblr trend where people were posting variations of the humans are the real monsters meme. Believe it or not, the first instance of Scooby-Doo's name appearing in media was not when Silverman thought of it. It actually appeared in different media parts, including the 1959 Jerry Lieber and Ernie Freeman album named Scooby-Doo. As many popular films were turned into novels, so came the turn of the critically acclaimed 2002 Scooby-Doo movie, which got turned into a 157-page novel, which I cannot find anywhere to read, but from what I understand, it presents a generous amount of differences from the movie. Most likely because it apparently had been written with the help of earlier drafts for the live action. Yoamushi Kurupa, which translated to Cowardly Klooper, was the original Japanese dub for Scooby-Doo Where Are You? The show first hit Japan in February of 1970 as part of NHK's boys movie theater block. The characters' names had been changed, Scooby going to Klooper, Shaggy to Boropin, Fred to Handsome, Daphne to Jenny, and lastly Velma to Megako. They also had a change in the intro, which was sung by the band Redstone. Another favorite of mine, the cursed costume theory is brilliant. It suggests that the costumes in the Scooby universe are possessed by a dark magic, and whenever someone wears the costume, it gains its abilities and acts like it. Like all the time they're in costume, they act like the said monster the costume represents, even if there is no one around them. So logically, it wouldn't make sense for them to do all that if they weren't forced to, unless it's by, let's say, a higher force or being. Furthermore, it explains why some villains, after getting unmasked, just look lost and baffled, not understanding what's happening around them, like they were forced to make all those wrongdoings. And it would also explain stuff like this. Mystery Inc. is a great contender for proving this theory right. This subreddit is intended for Black Velma cosplayers. Really cool. As previously mentioned, the 1940s I Love a Mystery radio serials were a huge help and inspiration to the original Scooby show. Scooby-Doo's very own Mandela effect. If you don't know what the Mandela effect is, well, it's a phenomenon where a massive number of people misremember something, thus everyone thinking it's correct because of the number of people that remember it that way. Well, in Scooby-Doo's case, or I better say Shaggy's, the Mandela effect revolves around the idea that Shaggy has an Adam's apple, which, as you've guessed, is completely untrue. This effect even fooled me. For quite a long period of time in which I hadn't watched Scooby-Doo, I thought that Shaggy in fact had an Adam's apple. So when I started rewatching episodes and whatnot, I was surprised to see that it was completely false. Saturday Morning Mystery is an independent horror film released in 2012 by director Spencer Parsons. The movie follows 4 teenagers, Nancy, Gwen, Chad and Floyd to be exact, and their dog Hamlet. Sounds a bit similar to something else, but I can't quite put my finger on it. The early 2000s keep getting weirder and weirder. The Scooby brand went wild and had a Barbie collaboration, which is quite the choice for a collaboration. This collab brought to life things that should have never been allowed to hit the shelves, like for instance the Scooby dolls made for the release of the first live-action Scooby film. This shit is nostalgic as fuck. This entry refers to the 2004 Scooby-Doo Flash game Scooby-Doo Horror on the High Seas, but more importantly to its lost prologue, that was found by YouTuber Queer and 2 of his friends Logan the Hammer and Guiana the Great in early 2021. The prologue shows Scooby and Shaggy on the cruise ship and what happened before the ghost pirates attacked. The original prototype for the masterpiece known as Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights was developed initially for PS1, and it features a pretty consistent amount of differences, like a lot actually. Firstly, the game is split into 5 different levels, which feature their very own map. First one revolves around an old mining town, second around the Mystic Manor, which ended up being the whole focus in the actual release, the third around the location called Wolf's End Lodge, the fourth around Frightland Amusement Park, and lastly, the fifth main focus is the main street and the secret lab, which is the base of the Phantom. In 2019, Transworld had a Halloween exhibit that featured, among the wax figures, a zombified version of the Scooby Gang, which is just as amazing as it is terrifying. Scooby-Doo has had a couple of pretty unknown Java games, like Shaggy and the Ghost Blocks, Scooby-Doo Saving Shaggy, and Scooby-Doo Castle Capers. There is a fan wiki page on Fandom which is solely dedicated to the potion scene from the second live-action movie. You know, the one in which Shaggy becomes a chick and buffed, and Scooby the Tasmanian Devil and the Einstein ripoff. Apparently, Scooby-Doo promotes witchcraft. This refers to the Scooby-Doo movie Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, in which 3 new characters appear, who'll make 2 more appearances, I think 2, and of course, I'm talking about the Hex Girls. Why are people saying that it promotes witchcraft? Well, I found this article, you could say. It's written by a guy called David J. Stewart. Let's see what Mr. Stewart has to say about this. The Hex Girls are of the devil, luring young girls into Wicca witchcraft. 1 Samuel 15:23 condemns witchcraft as a sin. Galatians 5:19-21 lists witchcraft as a sin equivalent to adultery and murder. In the Warner Bros. Image above, read the words "dark musicians spiritual." Well, they're dark, alright, straight from the abyss of hellfire. The Hex Girls are evil and dangerous. Well, I don't agree with that. When I was a kid, I was not drawn to witchcraft because the Hex Girls were doing it, and neither was my sister when she saw it. But I guess everyone has different perspectives on stuff. This is a Baffler article about someone that took Scooby-Doo too seriously. That's all that I know about it. This is the summary that Ringo left for us, and I'm really sorry, but I just can't find anywhere the article or anything about it. This is the only thing that I couldn't find, and I'm really sorry guys, I gave my best. This is the most infamous skip in the Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights game. This skip took years to get right, but when it did in 2020 by runner Snowy, with the help of the whole Scooby-Doo speedrunner community, it helped avoid multiple locations, including this fucking piece of shit, and reduce the time by approximately 9 minutes. Creepy early meant that you could glitch under the dock in Shock 2 and get in the creepy level early. I suggest you watch Mortal's video on it. It's truly a masterpiece, and if you're there, subscribe to the guy, he fully deserves it. This is the name for Scooby-Doo's speech impediment. It basically converts a consonant into a rotty consonant in a certain environment. Diagnosis Murder was an American TV show from the early 90s till the early 2000s. The show was supposed to have a Scooby crossover, but it ran into rights problems. This is my favorite No Sleep Reddit post. It came out around 3 years ago, I think, and it's about a disturbing made-up Scooby-Doo episode that this guy allegedly thinks he remembers seeing. I'm not gonna spoil it, just go read it for yourself, you'll love it. Bald Fred was a 4chan post from 2019, which featured a Reddit creepypasta type of story or something. The original poster says that he was hanging out with some of his friends, they were all basically stoned or something, and one of his buddies, after 3 hours of watching Scooby-Doo, said that he remembers something called Bald Fred, which he had nightmares about. This thing he says he reminisces about was apparently a website of some sort in the early 2000s, on which there are videos of Bald Fred with domestic abuse and screaming audio over it. An anonymous person wrote a 25,000 words Wikipedia article on Scooby-Doo. So that's fucking dedication. This is probably the guy that changes the is to was 5 seconds after a celebrity's passing. If you don't know what SCPs are, well, they basically stand for Secure Contained Protect, in reference to entities that violate natural laws. There is a website under the name SCP Foundation that is in charge of the stories and keeping the entities contained. And one of those involves the gang, which goes by the name Mobile Task Force MU4. They investigate an SCP and they capture it after it got stuck under a fallen bookshelf. I also like this little touch that was added to this. The doctor in question that entrusts Task Force MU4 with a mission is called Dr. Jenkins, an homage to the old man Jenkins stereotype you could call that we talked about in the first level. As previously mentioned in a couple of entries regarding the origins of the franchise, there was supposed to be a fifth teenager by the name of Mike, which unfortunately got scrapped from the project. Okay, so this is an hour and a half long video from the mid-80s in which three gentlemen by the names of Gary Greenwald and Phil Phillips really hit a home run by unmistakably revealing the demonic intentions behind children's toys and cartoons, which is to spread allegiance to Satan. That's the summary. In that video they approached multiple cartoons like He-Man, Transformers, I also see Barbie in the text, which confuses me the most, and a couple of others, but the reason I'm here for is Scooby-Doo. So, fortunately, I have a life, so I cannot stand here for an hour and a half to watch this video. Even if I had that time to spare, I'd rather waste it watching paint dry. But by the light that was bestowed upon us by God, the Scooby segment is the first, and I guess the shortest, by comparing the runtimes. They of course are dissecting the only Scooby piece of media at that time to feature canon ghosts, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Apparently, the amulet and crystal ball and all that stuff are of malefic intent and something from the devil. Mr. Greenwald also stated that he doesn't recognize this version of Scooby-Doo, and I'm just as baffled as he was. Stuff changing with time? Impossible. Makes no sense, am I right? This whole project is like the overly Christian group from the 80s that has this superpower that allowed them to see the devil's malefic intent in absolutely any source of media possible. And I have something to add. Why the cartoons from that period of age? Why did they think that something changed and everything is now going in a dark direction with the children's media? I watched Scooby-Doo with my parents growing up, and I don't think they thought I'd worship the devil because Scooby and Shaggy let loose a couple of ghosts from a chest. Also, this malefic, supernatural shit that they're trying to vilify as the hand of the devil was in media way before that, an example being Snow White from the late 1930s. Don't you think that there was some devil implication in the Queen's spell that was put on the apple to poison Snow White? Nah, you grew up with it. That means it's okay. It's the fault of the cartoons of the present. So yeah, trying to mask any attempt at an evil supernatural force in the cartoons because it apparently resembles the devil's doing in the 80s was not cool. Imagine if this was the reason why the 13 Ghosts got cancelled before its last episode. That would suck a lot. The Scooby-Doo franchise features a lot of Civil War characters, and the fact that the Confederates are like almost all the time depicted as good guys, for example in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, where the Confederate colonel helps the gang, is really fucking disturbing. Oh my god, this is a whole different blast from the past. I have to take a second. I remember playing this with my brother when we were kids. It was a flash game on the official Cartoon Network website, if I remember correctly. It's based on the second live-action movie. You have to solve puzzles in order to escape from the museum, and one of those has a jump scare that was pretty scary for a child. Yep. So, there's this guy I found on Ship Ninja, or Rumble, how you prefer it. That is a Trump supporter, and he's posted a couple of vids this summer about how he went to Trump rallies with this mystery machine looking van with Trump cramped inside there with the Scooby-Doo characters. Ringo also added as a summary alt-right appropriation, which I hope is not the case, but looking at that van and yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else. The creepy eyes that you've probably seen thousands of times in Scooby intros are disturbingly similar to the evil entities from Mr. Inc. If that's the case, then all those eyes from the intros were theirs, which ties the series in an interesting way in my opinion. It's like he's watching over the gang in a menacing way, kind of haunting them in every reality they reincarnate, like waiting for one in which he could actually interact with them. That's some food for thought for you. Harry Reid was a United States Senator for 30 years. A leaked document from the Republican National Committee revealed a PowerPoint presentation in which Reid was mockingly compared to Scooby-Doo. I'm not gonna pretend like I understand American politics or why this is funny, so I'm just gonna assume that all you Americans are laughing right now. There is a synthetic drug that is described as fake weed and known under different names, one of those being Scooby Snacks. Ringo left a link in the summary of the entry, which redirects to a YouTube video showing the news that 4 people overdosed on Scooby Snacks. This is the most down bad shit I've ever witnessed. So, on the birthplace of the Holy Grail, also known as Deviant Art, there is a group of people who fetishize the Tar Monster. Specifically, that scene in which he was choking Daphne in the second live-action movie. And they drew multiple hot celebrities captive by the grasp of the Tar Monster. And here I thought you couldn't get more degenerate than the furry hentai games on Steam. But the internet is again proving me wrong. I pray for salvation. This is an interesting one, and I like that we're ending on a spooky and mysterious note. So, El Faro was a cargo ship that sank in October 2015. All 33 crew members were dead. Bodies were never recovered. The ship was only found 3 months after sinking, and the last transmission from the ship were the words "Row, row" in a Scooby-Doo voice. Yep, that was the end of it. Spooky shit. Rest in peace to the crew members, it's very unfortunate that their bodies could not be recovered. It's over. I have no idea how long this video will be, or when I'll finish editing. If you've reached this point by watching the whole ass iceberg, I'm forever grateful to you. So, if you've enjoyed this, would you consider leaving a like and subscribing? That would absolutely make my day, and it would really help me out. Also, go leave some love to Ringo. The iceberg was amazing. Leave an upvote on the post and a follow. I'll leave the link in the description. Lastly, I won't hold you much longer. It's been long enough already, so I think I'm just gonna go to sleep now. Oh, and one more thing before I go. Have a great day, guys. Bye.